Robert Morris, the Texas megachurch pastor who built Gateway Church into one of the largest congregations in the country, pled guilty Thursday in Osage County District Court to a charge that he SA'd a girl in the 1980s. Morris, age 64, entered a plea before Judge Cindy Pickler, admitting to 5 felony counts of lewd or indecent acts with a child. Under a negotiated plea agreement, he was given a 10-year sentence, but he will only serve 6 months in county jail. He must also be registered as an offender and pay $250,000 in restitution. Morris was handcuffed and taken into custody after Thursday's hearing. Cindy Clemshire, who was the woman who accused Morrison of going after her at the age of 12, sat in the courtroom, surrounded by family, as Morris accepted responsibility, a moment she sought for decades. The plea represents a remarkable fall for Morris, who founded Gateway in 2000s in South Hale, Texas, and grew it into a mega church with tens of thousands of weekly attendees. His sermons were broadcasted to audiences around the world, his books became bestsellers in evangelical circles, and he served as a faith advisor to President Donald Trump. The career collapsed in June of 2024 after Clemshire, age 55, publicly accused him of going after her. Within days, Gateway announced that Morris was stepping down. In a statement at the time, Morris acknowledged what he described as a moral failure with a young lady decades earlier, but didn't respond to specifics of the allegation. Clemshire stated that it all began with Morris on Christmas night in 1982 when she was 12 and wearing a flowery pink pajama outfit. Morris, a traveling evangelist in his early 20s who sometimes stayed with her family in Oklahoma, invited her to his room, where she stated he instructed her to lie on her back. He then decided to go after her multiple ways and continued. The first of several similar encounters that would span the next few years. Quote, never telling anyone about this. It will ruin everything. She kept the secret until 1987 when she told her parents and leaders at her church. Morris went through what was later described as a restoration process in the late 1980s before he returned to ministry. Nobody called the police. Years later, in the mid-2000s, after Morris had risen to national prominence, Clemshire approached him and leaders at Gateway Church seeking $50,000 in restitution to recover what she spent processing her childhood trauma and therapy, records stated. And in 2007, Morris's lawyers at the time wrote a letter suggesting that Clemshire bore responsibility for the, quote, inappropriate behavior between her and Morris when she was a child. Morris offered $25,000, but the talks fell apart. Clemshire also stated that because she wasn't willing to sign a non-disclosure agreement. After decades of roadblocks, a family friend encouraged Clemshire to go public last year. She shared her story with the Wartburg Watch, a blog focused on exposing stories of abuse in the church. After Morris resigned, the Oklahoma Attorney General's office opened an investigation. In March of 2025, a multi-county grand jury indicted him on 5 felony counts, charging that he had went after Clemshire from 1982 to 1985. Prosecutors argued that Oklahoma law allowed them to pursue the case despite the passage of decades, pointing to a frontier-era provision that paused the clock on the statute of limitations when a defendant moves out of state. At the first court appearance in May, Morris pled not guilty and was released on a $50,000 bond. Last month, he waived his preliminary hearing, a signal that his defense team and prosecutors were engaged in plea negotiations. Those talks culminated Thursday with Morris's guilty plea. In a prepared statement, Clemshire told Morris in court that him going after her rippled into every part of her life, straining relationships, damaging her marriage, and affecting the way she raised her children. She also stated that she prayed that God helped him to understand the depths of the pain he inflicted. Morris's eyes were fixed on the table in front of him as Clemshire spoke through tears, faced him during her remarks. Quote, let me be clear. There is no such thing as consent from a 12-year-old child. We were never in an inappropriate relationship. I was not a young lady, but a child. You committed a crime against me. The guilty plea is the latest development in the case that has reverberated far beyond rural Oklahoma. In November of 2024, Gateway Church announced it had removed 4 elders after an investigation. An outside law firm concluded that some had known about Clemshire's allegations years ago, but afraid to act. Earlier this year, Morris sued Gateway seeking millions in retirement benefits, alleging that the church mishandled his resignation and damaged his reputation. Gateway has denied Morris's claims, stating that in a statement that his demands, quote, do not reflect accountability for the impact of his actions on the community. The scandal drew national attention as an example of how decades-old allegations of SA can be prosecuted. Advocates for survivors point to Clemenshire's story as evidence at how victims often wait years to come forward and why civil and criminal statutes and limitations should be eliminated in cases of SA. I was just a little bit curious and I wanted to know a little bit information about this pastor. So it says, Robert Morris, the former Texas megachurch pastor, is known for his involvement in the conservative Christian and Republican politics. He resigned from his role at Gateway Church in 2024 following SA allegations. His political activities include, number one, advisor to Donald Trump. Morris served on former President Donald Trump's Evangelical Executive Advisory Board during his 2016 campaign and hosted him at Gateway Church in 2020. Republican activism. He actively promoted Republican causes and candidates, particularly on conservative social issues. Oppositions to the LGBTQ+ rights in certain school policies. Morris used his platform to advocate against LGBTQ+ inclusion policies in schools, oppose transgender restroom access, and fights against critical race theory. Next, local election involvement. He showed list of conservative school board candidates to his congregation and encouraged them to vote in local elections. Since the allegations surfaced in 2024, Morris's political allies have distanced themselves from him. A Trump campaign spokesperson stated that Morris no longer had a role with the campaign. So didn't I just give you guys a video before this one where it spoke directly on a judge, or at least a judge that was sitting at the current time, and he was brought up on allegations, and they had computers, they had cell phones, they had the whole 9 yards in order to ensnare, entrap, and prove that the guy was not fit to serve, to be directly on the seat that is supposed to overlook the rest of us, right? To pass down those judgments. And here we have another person supposed to be the left hand of God, and this person ran a church, but back in the 1980s, calling me surprised, it was far back then, that he decided that he wanted to come into somebody's home in Oklahoma, and he wanted to see what it was. He wanted to go trick-or-treating, right? And he went trick-or-treating in that home in Oklahoma for quite a few years, right? And the church members knew about this. That's interesting. I thought it was just the pastor that would, in a sense, be the main go-to guy. It was like, hey, it's him. We need to lock him up, throw away the key. No. Realistically, you need to shut down that whole church. Because if the pastor is the lead, and he was the one doing it, and then you have the parishioners who are second under the pastor that know about this, and they're keeping this secret, what do you then think that means for the rest of the folks directly out there who are in that church? If people follow him as a leader, they look up to him, they follow every single word that he states. And again, he's talking from the Bible, right? He was reciting scriptures, the word of God, right? If they're following him, what does that then mean for the people? If you have a leader that is leading you in the wrong direction, he's leading you down an endless dark hole, what does that then mean for the rest of the people there? That means that they're being misled. That means that they're looking up to the wrong person. This is why I state that it's very important for people to have an understanding and to have a relationship directly with whoever it is that they believe in, and not by way of a middleman such as a pastor and or a church. You don't need to sit up there and do that, because the moment in time that instead of you worshiping whatever God that you believe in, you're in a sense worshiping and idolizing this pastor or this preacher, that's what they would consider, I guess, is false idolization. Right? Because people look up to, people believe directly in, people love, people cherish, people nurture, people uplift and pedestalize people like this, but yet you're supposed to do all of these things for the God, right, that you believe in. Seems a little bit interesting. And they normally sit up there and tell people that you can't serve two gods. And when I just so happen to look at the church, it seems as though that's exactly what people are actually doing. You're serving two, and you can only serve one. So this is a healthy reminder for a lot of people of what it looks like when you decide that you want to, quote unquote, believe in man instead of believing in your relationship with said God or deity directly out there. This is what that will get you. So now for me, I have to look at everybody that's a part of that church sideways. To look at everybody sideways. Everybody needs to be scrutinized. The FBI or whoever it is needs to run a nice comb directly through that whole church. No stone unturned. Because I promise you, amongst all of those people, the tens of thousands of people that follow this pastor, I promise you, you'll find more people just like him and even doing far worse stuff. What he's doing is already bad, right? So this is not me excusing or trying to lighten that load. What I'm saying is that you're going to have people that are going to go to a higher and a further extent as beyond what was mentioned in this article. Like I said, everybody needs to get thrown away. Everybody needs to get, thrown directly in prison to never see the light of day ever again. But as I stated before, these are problems that the main majority in the United States never want to focus in on or talk or highlight directly about. They always want to scapegoat and state that it's black. That's the problem. It's not us, it's them. And I also wanted to make sure to highlight that this pastor is a Republican. He is a conservative. And the Republicans and the conservatives always state that they are the party of truth. They are the party of honor. They are the party of protection when it deals with the family. But how much protection was this pastor delivering and giving to this family? But anyways, let me know what you guys think about this video and everything that I stated in the comment description below. And as always, peace, love, and stay tuned for the next video.